wishing I was in your arms, though it's just imagination that plays tricks on the mind. When I'm out in the lights,
When I'm not watching Sheffield Wednesday and listening to Mark Almond and dipping my bourbon creams in my tea and watching Matt Bridges vlogs.
Hi everybody, welcome to the first of 3 videos where I'm walking the strip from the Stratosphere down to Mandalay Bay, or as near as damn it. But before we get to the Stratosphere, I'm going to start the story off. The idea of these vlogs really is to give you my experiences and thoughts of things that have come and gone over the 21 years I've been coming to Vegas. But we're going to start slightly north of the Stratosphere, and this gives you a clue as to why. Just wed. I first came to Las Vegas in September 1998 with my then fiance. We decided to get married here the following September 99, and we got married at the Chapel of the Flowers, which is just here. We visited a few of them during our first trip and decided on this one. And to be honest, it was a really lovely wedding actually. My parents and sister came out. Actually, I mean, I haven't been back here for a long time. It's probably, well, probably since the mid-noughties. Actually, it's changed a bit. That never used to be there, that gate thing. But we arrived for the wedding, and an Elvis impersonator turned up, and we booked it through Virgin. You could sort of book a wedding then, and or an Elvis themed wedding then. And he turned up thinking we booked it. Now I hadn't booked it, basically, had we gone through with it, rather than say I do, when he asks you the vows and everything, you just say uh-huh. So anyway, I turned him away. I mean, as it turned out, he probably should have done it and sung Heartbreak Hotel. It would have probably been more apt in the end, but it was a great day, a really great day. And we then had our sort of wedding breakfast at Olives in Bellagio, literally with a table that overlooked the fountains. And actually my wife and I got a picture of us playing Wheel of Fortune in our wedding outfits, which was quite funny. Some things never change, huh? But yeah, it brings back actually very happy memories initially, sorry. I'll develop the story as we move on down. So let's get down to Stratosphere and take it from there. So here we are at the Strat, as it is now called, and this is the new logo for it. Going through a bit of a modernisation. I've only ever stayed at Stratosphere once. That was in June 2003. But I've always quite liked the casino. More often than not, I've visited prior to eating at the Top of the World restaurant, which for views I just think is you can't do any better actually, and I still say that now. So people always ask me what restaurants to eat in. I mean, it's probably fairly standard for people to say Top of the World, but the food's great. You probably get a decent meal for two for, I don't know, 200 odd bucks. and the views. It rotates, I think it's once every 45 minutes. So over the years I've always gone there and gambled beforehand, and more often than not, going back a few years, I used to win a few hundred and then go and spend it on the meal. Yeah, and they're just changing the sign on the tower for, I guess, the new name. So those of you that watch my vlogs regularly will know that I was always in love with the holiday motel sign that stood here. Thankfully it's now down at the, or going down to the Neon Boneyard downtown, and they're obviously remodelling the whole motel, which is probably long overdue, I would imagine. And I must admit, some of these motels here and chapels and everything, I mean, you really do just wonder, don't you? I mean, would you get married in there, seriously? And this one up here, actually, the Fun City one, I've always thought it looks anything but fun. Mind you, there might be fun going on inside it. Do you think? That's probably more to the point. So I'm standing outside SLS, and this end of the strip really is a total hangover from the financial crash of 2008. I mean, you've got the Lucky Dragon over there, which, if you remember, I got told to stop filming in, now completely boarded up. I heard it's been bought by a construction company. You have these residential towers, one there, then there's one, just you can see through the palm trees there, and then there's four just over there in front of Westgate. When they went on the market, you know, they were going for $1.25 million. And I remember at the time thinking it would be my dream to live in one of those. But with the crash, I think they went down to about $250,000. So they haven't been a particularly good investment choice for those that bought off plan. And then, of course, the Fontainebleau, which supposedly is still opening as the Drew. But I understand it's been put back now to Q2 2022. Well, that's if it ever opens, in my opinion. But almost 4,000 rooms there'll be in that place, apparently. And then, of course, SLS itself, which, if you remember, I stayed at in 2015, my second set of vlogs from here. I always loved it when it was Sahara. And we used to come up here quite a lot and play, because I've always been a massive fan of the monorail. Whether you're staying at SLS or Sahara as was, or Westgate or MGM, you can get up and down the strip so easily. I used to love it. And with this Sahara, some of you might remember, they used to have a roller coaster that used to shoot out and then back towards where I'm standing, and then up a big loop and then back again. We rode that quite a lot, actually. Unfortunately, I did actually once get food poisoning in Sahara and spent a whole day in bed in Stardust, puking my guts up. So it was probably due to be knocked down. But to be honest with you, I never understand these developers, because surely if the Sahara didn't work, why would SLS work? I don't know how it's still going, if I'm honest, but going it is. And actually, the nearer I get to the Drew, the more you see sort of the exposed bits of the building which have been hammered by the elements for years now. That place must be in an absolute shocking state, you know. That's a project and a half to redo that. Wouldn't it be better just to knock it down and start again? I guess not. Some of you may also remember that this ground here was once a water park. It's a bit like being in Spain. You could sort of do your gambling at Sahara and then go on your water slides. And then we get to yeah, probably the part of the strip that, I don't know, is tinged with sadness as far as I'm concerned in terms of what's happened to it, how it's been allowed to decline. But this place still stands. Actually, looks like he's got a new nose, doesn't he? I've always done quite well at Circus Circus. I won $800 odd in there with Suzanne, probably on her first trip, I think, on a Sex in the City machine. But this area was always, if you wanted sort of old school neon, I'm going to put on the screen now a shot from, well, just a few yards back of the clown and the neon of the actual old style properties that were here. It just looked wonderful. And it wasn't like its own little section, because you know, I used to spend my time either there at Riviera, the Circus, Slots of Fun, which still stands, but is nothing like as good as it was. And I always used to play a machine in Slots of Fun. I don't know if any of you remember it. I've got a very bad picture of it I'm going to stick on the screen now. It was the old style Monopoly game. One of the first ones where you had sort of graphics on the screen, but they were very basic. I used to play that everywhere. It was the red hot fusion of its time. And Slots of Fun, I won the 1,000 coins on that particular game. I always remember that. And then next to Slots of Fun, just down here, of course, you had Westward Ho. And I think I've mentioned, well, I mentioned on a podcast, but I spent December 2004, Christmas 2004 in Vegas. Palm Springs initially, then we headed to Vegas a couple of days before Christmas. And we had a night, Christmas Eve in Westward Ho, which was right here. Absolutely epic night. We won, we were low rollers in those days, and we were $1 Wheel of Fortune at $2 a press was high betting for us. But we put, I don't know, probably $20 or something in the hope that we were going to hit something, and hit $400, which was an awful lot of money back then. My gambling has steadily increased over the years, there's no doubt about that at all. But then I guess my income's steadily increased, so and inflation. That's what I put it down to anyway. But yeah, I mean, we would always play Wheel of Fortune, 75 cents, you know, 3 coins on a 25-cent machine. And I tell you what, I've hit 1,000 coins probably 25 times in those early days. It was regular. I mean, we used to play it so much, I could pretty much guarantee I'd hit at least 2 every trip. It wasn't that hard to do. And then obviously here was where Stardust stood, and between 2004 and 2006, it closed towards the end of 06. I stayed at Stardust 5 times in total. My wife and I were obsessed with that place. One of the things I remember there, actually, they had I think it was actually called the Wayne Newton Lounge, or Theatre, sorry, at the time. And I saw Gene Pitney there in 2002. For the younger audience, he's a 60s crooner of sort of ballads. Great singer. I was a big fan of Gene Pitney. I've seen him a few times, and he'd been trying to get on the strip for years and years and years. And it just so happened I'd seen him in my hometown Croydon a couple of times actually, and he managed to get 3 nights at the Stardust. I think it might actually have been 2004, and it was an absolutely fabulous show. And he said during the show that he'd been trying for years to get on the Strip, and it was his proudest moment to sing on the Las Vegas Strip. And sadly, he died in mid-2006. But a great singer, and that was one of my memories of Stardust. We always used to stay in the suites in there, which were cheap, but it actually has the same feeling to me, or it had the same feeling to me as Downtown Grand and Plaza do now, if that sort of makes sense. And then we have Encore. So now I haven't looked up when Encore opened, but I would guess it was 2004, because I remember staying at the Stardust in that era, and then Encore opening, and we used to go over there after gambling in Stardust. We used to go over there and have a gamble. Sorry, not Encore, Win. I mean, Encore was a couple of years later. Was it 4 years later? 2008, something like that. But Win definitely opened before the Stardust shut, that is for sure. And then further down here you had the New Frontier, and that was a nice little place. Now I never actually stayed at the Frontier, but again, we used to pretty much either gamble Riviera, Circus, Stardust, Westward Ho, it's lots of fun. Later on down to Win, and then Treasure Island was always a big one as well, at this top end. So I sort of categorised my early years of Vegas sort of between 98 and 2006. In the sort of first 3 or 4 years, probably until 2004, I stayed South Strip, and then moved 2004 to 2006. We moved up this end at Stardust end. And the only thing I would say about Stardust closing and how upset I was about it, and I really was, if it hadn't closed, I do wonder whether I'd have actually ended up with my love of downtown. Because in those days, we literally used to just go downtown for one night each trip, as probably most people do actually. And then after I'd stayed at the Stardust for the last time in 06, I came back out here in 07, and I'd just been made redundant at the time, and I was looking for a replacement. So I thought, well, we always like to go in Golden Nugget, so I thought, right, I will stay at the Golden Nugget. So that the first time I ever stayed downtown was 07, and well, as you know, I've never looked back. Yeah, so Resorts World is coming along. I mean, it really is a complete and utter rip-off of Win and Encore, isn't it? And I know they have really scaled back what they were originally going to build. I'll be honest with you, I couldn't really be less interested in it. Am I going to stay there as soon as it opens? No, probably not. On the other hand, am I going to stay at Circa when that opens downtown? Absolutely. So that probably explains my thoughts on both of them. New Frontier, by the way, used to be literally just through over the other side of the road here. I don't know quite why who owns that, or why it was shut, or who bought it. Don't really know the history. Does anyone actually ever stay at Trump still? I never hear of anyone staying there. So on my list of properties I've never stayed at but would like to are obviously Win and Encore. When I met Jules the other day, he was just checking out and he showed me his room at Win. Very, very nice. So yeah, I think Suzanne, I'm sure, would love it. So I dare say at some point we will stay there for a few nights. I'm just outside the fashion show mall now, and this thing, well, my overriding memory of this is when it was first built. It was before the spaceship roof went on or anything like that, so it was literally just a shopping centre with Macy's and a few other shops, still in its early sort of infancy. But we were staying at the Flamingo in February 2002, and my wife thought she might be pregnant, so we basically came down to the fashion show mall, as it was the closest chemist to where we were staying, and got a pregnancy test, and she was pregnant. And I mean, the shock, not because we didn't want her to be pregnant or anything, but the shock of coming to Vegas and then finding out you're pregnant was something else. So that's my overriding memory of this place. More of that later. Palazzo, again, never stayed there, or Venetian. I think the main reason is I've never won a thing in either of those casinos. Literally never won anything. Venetian in particular, I've never been a great fan of the casino there at all. So, as I don't play there, I wouldn't get any comps, and therefore, and also, you know, it's quite expensive if you're paying full price for the suites there. But I'm sure I know they're very nice. I've seen photos and everything. So I would say Encore, Wynn, Palazzo and Venetian. You know, at some point I would like to stay at them. Resorts World, I'm not so worried when that opens. The Drew, I'm not so worried either if and when that opens. But I think, I think Wynn would be my first choice. Hopefully, as I played there this trip, I might get a night or two. Do you think possibly? I don't know. I mean, I probably played through 300 or 400 when I was there. I don't know whether that's enough to get anything, but we'll see. I know their rates have absolutely plummeted, haven't they, because of everything that's gone on. I mean, even I get Wynn Insider offers now, and they're sort of like 130 bucks for a weeknight, which for Wynn is cheap, right? But this sort of corner here is, well, compared to what it used to be like, well, it was just wasteland, simple as that. There was nothing here. And it does look phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So moving on to TI. So I've always had a real soft spot for TI. But I have to say they have, in my opinion, utterly ruined it outside. Yeah, I stayed here early noughties again, 2002 again. I think it was one of those. We came 3 times that year. And it was still in full Buccaneer mode with the fighting. The ships used to shoot at each other, the pirates used to fight each other. It was a really good show. And then they changed it to sirens, which I've never seen, almost in protest actually. And then of course they changed the sign from the skull and crossbones to that, and then changed it from Treasure Island to TI. But when I heard that they did it because they didn't want to, because it was sort of, in theory, pirates are sort of young kids could look up to. Then they didn't want pirates associating with gambling. I don't know if that's true, but it's a bloody ridiculous excuse if it is. But some of you may not be aware that this place used to be owned by MGM, hence the fact you've got the tram running between this place and Mirage down the road. But it was then sold to the people that owned the New Frontier, which I just mentioned earlier. And that's why you have Gillies here, because you had a bar in the old, in the New Frontier called Gillies, and they basically just transferred it 500 yards down the road to TI. Yeah, TI is not part of any chain. Actually, this bit looks, yeah, they're doing a bit of work here. Look. I don't think I'll stay at Treasure Island again. Not because I particularly don't like it, it's just I'm so locked in now. It's very easy to get like this. I never thought I would, but once you're locked into certain players' clubs, it's, you know, it's difficult. I mean, you know, why would I want to pay for a room when I can get them free? You know, it's the way I look at it always. But I'll always pop in periodically. That's for sure. And so just to bring this segment to a close, I'm at the Siegfried and Roy statue thing, which I can never understand why it's made of complete and utter plastic. Surely they could have done something in stone, couldn't they? I actually saw Siegfried and Roy about a month before the lion attack. So I remember I'd got home and I opened the newspaper at the time and it said what had happened. And the funny thing with that is that the show that we saw, the lion was misbehaving during that. I'm not sure it's the same lion, but one of them was, and I don't think it was part of the show. So when it actually transpired a month later that he'd been attacked by one, I wasn't massively surprised, because I've been telling people at work how I thought he was going to get attacked when I'd come back from the trip. Now the Mirage, I've always loved the Mirage, and my wife and I came here in 2004 for our 5th wedding anniversary, and we stayed in a suite. You see where the Beatles are on the top left of that wing. That was it. We were up there. It's without doubt the best room I've ever stayed in Vegas in terms of size. I think the Cosmo with the balcony is probably the best room I've ever stayed in for that reason, but in terms of size, we stayed there for 3 nights and it was absolutely immense. But whereas, you know, you look at TI and it looks, you know, they've fiddled around with it and, you know, made it just looks dated, and you can tell that they sort of added bits on and changed it, you know, not necessarily for the better. But this has never changed, and even with the ducks, and it looks just as good now as it did then, I think. I really do. And I've never seen the Beatles show. Suzanne and I went through a phase of watching loads of Cirque shows. But to be honest, the Michael Jackson one, although we quite liked it last summer, we weren't totally in love with it, purely because it didn't really have enough acrobatics for me. So I'm not sure whether the Beatles one would be any different necessarily. But I do find it very, very relaxing just walking past the waterfalls at Mirage. I mean, it really does just scream Vegas at you, doesn't it? Probably more so than Bellagio fountains, actually. Great, absolutely love it. So I'm going to leave this vlog here, and then I'll pick the next segment up from next door at Caesar's Palace, and then we'll head down, do the Strip Central, down to the South End. Hope you've enjoyed this. It's a bit of an experiment, this. Hope you've enjoyed me reminiscing about certain things, and if so, tune in again for part 2. Take care.